Hey guys, I'm John Henry, and welcome to another episode of Down to Business, a weekly web series where we talk about building a business from the ground up. Real quick, I want to thank all you guys for your questions, your comments, and your shares on last week's episode. It was really well received, and so we're pretty pumped at that here. Another thing, we launched a brand new video throughout the week. It's called 9 to 5 is Not Enough. And it would mean so much to me if you just checked it out. We threw it up on YouTube, we threw it up on Facebook. It's some good content to get you all fired up. And so with that, we have a lot to get to, so we're just gonna go ahead and get straight into the questions. Let's get down to business.
Stizzy asks, how can I pitch to a business that is apathetic to my key selling points?
Okay, Stizzy, so it sounds like you're selling your service to your customer, but they're not really resonating with what you have to tell them. And I think that the key issue here is that you have to flip the script. It's not really about what you think is important, it's about what's important to them. And the truth is that everybody's different. So when you approach your customer, the best way to get to that information is really simple. You just ask them and you say, hey man, I sell business cards. Can I just ask you, what is the most important thing when it comes to cards for you and flyers? And you may have a guy that cares more about speed or another guy that cares more about quality. And as they tell you this information, you just mirror it right back to them. And you focus your pitch based on what you know is important to them because they're telling you. And I think if you take that approach, you're going to be in a lot better position to close more business.
Kevin Claiborne asks, what's the best way to find partners and co-founders?
This is a great question, Kevin. Thanks so much for asking. It's actually one of the ones that I get most often. And my answer is always pretty straightforward to this question. I think that the best source of finding a co-founder is going to your friends first. In reality, when you know someone for a long period of time, you know their ups, you know their downs, you know how they deal with stress, you know their attitudes. We all have them. And it's really important that you know a person more or less inside and out before you ask them to become a co-founder. And one of the things that I'm seeing a lot of lately is just kind of all these synthetic ways to meet a co-founder. The equivalent to that is like marrying someone before dating them. You usually date someone for a very long period of time before you feel comfortable enough to marry them. And so too it must be for co-founders because it's the same thing. You're going to be on paperwork together, you're going to share liabilities together, you're going to be risking together. It's pretty hardcore. And so choose your co-founders wisely. So go first to your friends. If you don't have any friends, go to your friends of friends. So you go a second degree of separation. And finally, if you don't have either, then I would suggest you go work for a company that's progressive and that you enjoy, and you place yourself in an environment where you can meet these folks and eventually become friends with them. Best of luck, Kevin.
Kenny Soto asks, how do you figure out which legal entity to create?
Okay, so you've decided that you want to start your business. Good for you. And now you have to choose which legal entity you're going to pick. And I love this question because there is a lot of unnecessary confusion around the subject. And that's because there are a lot of choices. But in reality, modern day, there are only two relevant choices. In the year 2016 going into 2017, the only things that you should be considering are either A, you're an LLC, or B, you're a Delaware-based C corporation. And the differences are the following. For 99% of companies, you're going to want to go LLC. For your mom and pop shop, for your t-shirt companies, for your media companies, if you're an agency, if you are yourself a business like is doing speaking gigs, you're gonna want to go LLC. The only companies that should be considering a C Corp are companies that hope to take in venture capital. And so the main difference is the taxation. That's what it really comes down to. With an LLC, your company is a separate entity, which means that monies flow in and out. So you take the money that you made, you subtract the money that you spent, and whatever is left will flow over to you personally, and that's what you file with the IRS. So if my company made $10,000 after expenses, then that comes over to me personally, and I let the IRS know that that's my income. On the flip side, a corporation is not ever really personally connected with any one person. And so, again, for taxation purposes, I really enjoy LLCs. They're very simple, they're easy to maintain. With corporations, they're a lot more complicated. You have to have board meetings, there's a lot more formality, you have to log in board minutes, and there are a lot more loopholes and intricacies that actually make a very great vehicle, but only if it's absolutely necessary for you. So again, if you're looking to take in venture capital, you're going to want to go with a corporation, a Delaware-based corporation, because Delaware is a tax haven. But otherwise, 99% of the businesses out there should be going LLC. It's a relatively new structure, and it's called a pass-through entity because the monies flow from the entity to you, and it's more than sufficient for most of everyone's needs.
Camila asks, I'm working on starting a small curated tour company. I've done all the back work, but not sure how to launch it. Any advice?
So I'm going to assume two pretty key things. One, she's done all the research by backwork, and two, that she's identified that people really do in fact want this kind of service. So if that's the case, then I think that the best way to start is to keep it really simple. What do I mean by that? Create a one-page website. You can do this with a number of platforms, Wix.com, Squarespace, Shopify, etc. You can create a landing page, right? So it's literally a one-page website that sums up exactly what you do very concisely. You list who it's for, where they can find it, how much it costs, etc. Just go right down that list, and at the end of it, have a pay form. And so I think the easiest way to test if your idea is going to work is by creating this one-page website and sharing it with people that you think might be interested in this service. Now, here's the really key part. Once you share this website, keep your ears open for any feedback that they have. And if enough people give you the same feedback, then you go ahead and incorporate that feedback into your website. And this is called the learning process, the reiterative process. So as you do that, your website gets more and more filled with the things that you know your customers want, and eventually you'll start getting those sales. Okay guys, that's all we have for you for episode 2 of Down to Business. I hope you guys have found this useful. Please go ahead and leave me your thoughts and your comments in the comment section. Also, if you have any questions, leave them in the comment section with hashtag DTBshow, and we'll be sure to get to them next week. Until then, see you.